Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the first in the new FIA Nations Championship on the new schedule with the new settings that have been applied to the FIA. So these settings now are much longer races. I think this race was around 30 minutes long, just under 30 minutes long. In this race managed to do reasonable qualifying. Not amazing, but it was good enough to put me on P3 in the Porsche. Most people decided to do this race in the Mercedes. You see Storm on P1 with the Subaru, just doing a little bit of trolling, I think. Still managed to get pole, but you can see mainly the cars that were being picked for this race was, I'd say, the majority in the Mercedes, a few Porsches, and sometimes a few Audis, because the Audi was also very strong at this race, especially in qualifying, and also if you could do the two-stop and make it work. Because obviously the Audi does suffer with a bit more tyre wear. The Porsche had an option to do both strategies. You see Kaus there, P8 in the Porsche as well. I think for me, I felt like the Porsche was a bit more suited to my driving style. For this track, the Mercedes was very strong, as you can see all the way through the grid. Majority of people picking the Mercedes. One of the reasons was because the Mercedes is very strong on fuel. It's got quite a decent top speed, so it allowed you to overtake. The Porsche area that it suffered a little bit was on straight line speed, but was looking forward to this race. Plenty of strategy options available in this race. It was going to be really interesting to see how this played out. This was the second slot of the day. The first slot, we made a bit of a mistake in qualifying, as in totally misjudged the time. I did my base lap and then thought I had time to pit, didn't, and just couldn't really do anything. So ended up, I think we were midfield in qualifying when we should have really been right at the front in the top 3 or 4 rows. But in this one, made right with that, got myself into P3, and we're going to see what we can do in this race. So this is a much longer race. We've condensed it slightly. I've got rid of a couple of laps that were just not much action, so we're going to just really concentrate on where the action was, although it is still going to be a fairly long video as we start from P3 in this race, looking to make progress and seeing what we can do. You know, to be honest, I didn't think I could stay in the top 3. My aim for this race was top 5, but we're going to give it our best shot. You see, going into the fuel mixture 6 straight away, just to save a bit of fuel before we get the lights go out and we can actually start this race. So straight away searching for that slipstream of Oscaro NJ in front of us, with Storm just ahead of him. Now that Mercedes is going to be very fast off the start line. Obviously the WRX and Pretz are not the fastest car down the straights, so we're just going to sit back here really and see what goes on between these two in front, because I expected Eng to try and really attack Storm while he's got the slipstream and see if he can get past. Obviously that is his best opportunity. Storm is very fast in race conditions as well as qualifying. Probably not quite as close to Lightning yet, but he's definitely getting there. I think Lightning's got a little bit of an edge over him, but he is still doing very, very well. Probably, I would say he's definitely in the top 3 in Europe in terms of overall pace at the moment, Storm. But in this race, I'm just going to try and sit back here and just see what's going to go on. This is going to be really exciting because we've got a lot more strategy available. There was multiple strategies available in this race. There was a 2-stop, the 1-stop. There was different variations of the 1-stop in pitting lap 6, pitting lap 8. There was variations of the 2-stop. It was going to be really interesting how people approach this race. And also, the good thing about this race is in the top 4, we have 4 different cars. We've got a WRX, Mercedes in front of me. I'm in the Porsche, Audi behind that, and then I think it's another Mercedes behind the Audi. So a lot of variety, and strategy is definitely going to come into play. You can see already I'm trying to do a little bit of short shifting, because what the strategy I was planning to do for this race was a 1-stop and no fuel in the pit stop. So you just got to just not rev it out too much. You can still be quite aggressive. At the moment I'm trying to just stay in the slipstream, even though I'm trying to save a little bit of fuel at the same time. And I obviously knew that the Audi behind me is not quite as strong on fuel. I have driven that car. It's not the worst car on fuel, but it's not the best. So I've got a little bit of advantage for as long as I can keep him behind. I was pretty sure that Audi R8 driven by Elgato there was going to be doing the 2-stop, because in the first slot race he did attempt the 2-stop strategy, and it can be very, very fast, especially in a car like the Audi that is unbelievably fast through fast corners. And this track in general is one of the fastest cars, I believe. As in front of us you see the Mercedes all over the back of the WRX into the braking zone. Obviously that WRX doesn't have the straight line speed, so Storm having to do a bit of defending at this early stage in this race. And for me, this is good because it's enabling me just to sit back here, try and look after my tyres, try and keep Elgato behind us. The aim was to keep him behind for as long as possible, because if he's on a 2-stop strategy, we don't want him getting in front of us, because he's going to be pushing, probably using a bit more fuel up, and if he makes his strategy work by getting in front early on and building a bit of a gap is going to mean that he's going to have the jump on me very early on the second stop. So the aim is hold him up, then obviously he's going to go for his pit stop and we stay out, and then the aim is for when I pit to be ahead of the two stoppers and try and hold on towards the end. That was the plan. That I definitely had reasonable speed at this combination in the Porsche. I was driving reasonably well in this first stint. I believe these early laps have not been the best, if I'm honest. I'm not driving 100% yet, but I was just trying to get back and settle into a rhythm really. The first race we didn't really get into a rhythm because we were battling away, a lot of traffic, a lot of strategy going on. We were in midfield, so a lot of fighting with other cars, and this was my first chance to really settle into a groove and get used to the track again, get my speed up to where it should be, and try and see what we can do as while looking after the tyres. I was running -3 brake bias for this race to try and look after the rear tyres a little bit while still not destroying the fronts. I find that this Porsche does not like going -5 on the brake bias. I worked that out with, if you keep an eye on the tyres, when you run -5 with the brake bias, it tends to overheat the front tyres. You can see it in the braking zones. With -3 it's not quite so aggressive. You still put a bit of obviously heat into them tyres, but nowhere near as much with the -5 brake bias. So it's interesting that that actually is a thing on GT Sport, that it doesn't have that much of an effect. Obviously we all know that brake bias affects your tyre wear, but I wasn't quite aware just how bad it overheats the tyres on the Porsche, and that's why I was obviously switched down to -3 as we have a look at this replay camera and just look how close this racing is. I am so happy that these races have been increased in length, because it's not going to make the racing any less close. It's just going to bring more strategy in, and more people deciding to use different cars as well, because you can use the strength of a car. Every car has a strength normally, and it has a weakness. So what you try and do is you play to the strength of that car. So the Porsche, good on fuel, good on tyres, go for the one stop maybe. The Mercedes, very similar, go for that one stop, but you can still, change your strategy mid race. Audi, bad on tyres, wouldn't normally be used in this race if it wasn't for the fact that we can now do a two-stop strategy. But because that two-stop strategy is available, people picking cars like the Audi, as you see, going through this section. Now this is where the Audi is so strong for its really fast corner. The Porsche is decent, but that Audi is just so much better, and also the Audi a bit faster on top end. Once you hit 4th, 5th gear, etc., it's got a bit more speed. As you see, Legner trying to work his way past, trying to look for an opportunity. I'm trying to defend while keep reasonable speed. So at the moment we're losing a bit of pace while trying to defend from the Audi R8. You can see him from the gap has extended, where I'm trying to defend while maintain speed. Obviously trying to not give him any opportunity to overtake, because my race is with a Legner really in this race. We've got to defend this for as long as possible to hold him up, so that at the end of the race, when the different strategies come back into play, we can hold on as long as possible. As you see, 4 cars very closely racing together there. I think that's Devil in the background, SV, DR, Legner and myself, and you see that little bit of a gap now from where we've been defending. We've lost a bit of time, but now we start lap 4. Again, we need to hold on for as long as possible. He's going to be putting a lot of pressure on this lap. He wants to get past. Obviously, you see in the braking zone, having a look up that inside. I give the space there just in case he outbraked himself, but take that line to give myself the inside for this corner, and it's really difficult to make any sort of overtake at this first sector really. There's no way you can do it unless you do it in turn 1, and we're holding on. Luckily for this moment, and just trying to keep it consistent, still trying to pay attention to them rear tyres, because obviously even though the Porsche is very good, I'm going for that one-stop strategy where I'm going to need to look after the rears for lap 6 and 7, and that's when I need to be doing some quite solid race pace really, because we don't want the two stoppers catching us up straight away and getting straight back past us, because with the new pit stop strategy, the pits are so small. I think it's only a 5 or 6 second loss. I believe that's going to get changed. I think it will do, especially when they introduce the multiple compound tyre races, which are going to be very soon, which again is another really interesting strategy element that will be brought to these races. But when they do that, I think they're going to have to introduce some sort of minimum tyre length that you drive on the tyres, and also maybe slightly longer pits to put people off doing the 1 lap on the hards and then 2 stops on the softer compound, because that will be OP. As we see a Legner there working his way around the outside. Now he's got the inside. We have to give him space. We can't shut that door. Very clean driving from both of us there, and the Legner makes a very nice move in that Audi R8, and now he's going to be pushing. My expectation for him would have been that he's going to pit on lap 5, because he's going to probably go and do the direct, the 2-stop strategy, pit in lap 5 and then lap 10, and then obviously pushing on each stint. But like I say, the race isn't over against Elgato at this stage. He's going to have to do an extra stop, even though the pit stops are very short. He also is going to be using a bit more fuel fuel during the race. And also, when I pit on lap 7, I'm then going to have fresher tyres than Elgato, and the race will come back to me. So this is going to be really interesting how it pans out. Can I manage to stay with him during this stage? This is the aim now, is to try and stay in the slipstream as long as possible. But you can see there in the background, SVDR had a little look up the inside there. I think he was having a look while I was trying to defend from, while I was also having a look from Elgato. I had to be defensive as well, so it was getting very, very close during this race, as we see. Devil also putting SVDR under a lot of pressure, and I think everyone's just doing different strategies. Everyone's saving fuel at different points of the race. It's really interesting. I love these new settings. It's the best thing to happen on GT Sport for FIA since I started this game. 15 laps around here is so refreshing. You just think about the last time you raced at this track, it was 8 laps, nearly double the distance now, and that 8-lap race was so static. We had no pit stops. It was literally, you qualified and you finished in that position. This race, it's going to be a lot different. We've got to see what we can do. We've already lost one position, but strategy could bring us back into this race. This is really tense, and I love this race because it was so, it made me feel like a lot more similar to iRacing in terms of the consistency factor, the strategy element. I think this has got much more strategy than iRacing, if I'm brutally honest, because normally on iRacing it's a very simple one stop. You don't really do much fuel. You can do a bit of fuel saving obviously, but this is really tactical, and I love this element of Gran Turismo, especially now that they've brought it back, and they've brought it back without extreme tyre wear. We can do the one stop, we can last 7 to 8 laps on these tyres. It's not a case of 3 laps and the tyres are completely dead. I really feel they hit the sweet spot with the settings for this first race of the Nations Championship, with the possibility to do multiple stops. It's really interesting. What we need I think what's going to make the strategies even better, I believe, is when they bring these multiple compound races in. As we see, multiple cars pitting there on lap 5, so 2 cars going for the 2 stop. You see, I think it was Elgato and another car further back going for that 2 stop. But yeah, I believe what will make these multiple compound races better when we're forced to do them is if they also bring the range of the tyres closer. So maybe make the medium a little bit faster, like in between what basically the soft and the medium is now, and then make the hard a lot closer to what the medium is now. And then what you're going to get is a much more broad range of strategy options, because if the hard is only half a second slower than the medium tyre but lasts a bit longer and maintains its peak for longer, that's what I think they need to get on board with Gran Turismo. That the peaks on the tyres last too long on the softer tyres, and you don't really get an advantage on going on the hard tyre. What we want to see is, hopefully with this Michelin partnership that is going to happen on Gran Turismo, which launches in October I believe, hopefully they're going to work alongside Gran Turismo in creating tyres that have advantages on the harder tyre, but obviously a bit slower but not too much slower. This is where Gran Turismo could become really exciting. It's already hitting a very nice spot at the moment with these races, the strategy element, but I'm really excited for the next few months on GT in terms of content, and also this Michelin partnership. If they do actually work with Gran Turismo, I really hope it's not just a gimmicky thing where we're going to get a little Michelin badge on the tyres. I hope they work with Polyphony on the tyre model in terms of making strategy a lot better in these races, and that's what they said in the interview. So let's see how that pans out over the next few days as we get a little bit loose out of that corner. As you see, we're on lap 6 now, coming into a really unusual pit stop there from Oscar Ends. This is unusual. Now at this point we don't know if them 2 drivers there pitting. You see Devil also pitting lap 6. Now that could be a 2 stop or a 1 stop, and that's what I love about this game at the moment. I really was not sure what strategy they were going to be on. They could be on the 1 stop, but they're going to have really bad tyres towards the end, or they could be on the 2 stop and going for a different alternative strategy. As we see Velostorm, I think he was going for the same strategy as me, the safer strategy, the 1 stop. The one thing about the Subaru that he's driving also is we all know that Subaru is not the best car on fuel, so I should be able to gain a little bit when we come to the pit stop phase, because I believe he's going to have to put a little bit of fuel in. I'm going to pit lap 7. Now there was an option for me to go another lap because the tyres were actually feeling quite okay at this point, and maybe I could have extended this stint, because I think it would have been hard though. I think if I would have extended this stint, we'd have ran more of a risk of getting undercut by various other drivers who pitted earlier. So this is what is so good about these new settings, is there's so many variables, there's so many things that can work in your favour or against you. There is a bit of luck involved, there's a lot of strategy involved. It's about thinking in the moment, at that point, analysing the situation of what cars you've got around you and deciding what to do. As we see Oscar Eng, who was in front of me, is now behind us. He's had his change of tyres. Now, is he going to be going for the 2-stop or the 1-stop? That is the thing. Look how much faster he is on them fresh tyres. He is absolutely flying. Now, what I needed to make sure I do was keep a solid lap on this lap, because I can't afford for Eng to get past me on this lap and hold me up. I've got to try and do a nice solid lap, and we did a really nice exit from that corner there, considering how much wear we've got on the tyres. And this has meant then I can go into this braking zone for the chicane without any fear of an attack, really, as we hit that curb nicely there, and again nicely onto the curb, getting on the power. I'm going to go in the pits now, leave Oscar Eng to battle on there. I don't want to really battle and defend him. There's no point in me doing that. I might as well pit this lap. As we see, the WRX in front of us, driven by Velocity, has got quite a bit less fuel, 6% less fuel, and on these new settings with a lower rate, that is quite a considerable amount as we put the new tyres on. And let's just see, we were about 6 seconds behind, 5.9 seconds behind, and we're now under 4 seconds behind Velocity. So that shows you the advantage of the Porsche with the fuel consumption as we come out the pits, and we've managed to hold our position ahead of Devil. That is really important in this race. Obviously, he's pitted that lap earlier. He could be on a 2-stop, he could be on a 1-stop. If he's on a 1-stop strategy, I believe that could have pretty much messed him up there, because I've now got fresher tyres. I've just got to try and get back into the rhythm now with these fresh tyres, push as much as I can, get back used to the grip on the car, and I should be okay to hold him off. With the Porsche with fresh tyres, it's a very nice car to drive. So that Mercedes is going to struggle, especially in the dirty air through the fast corners where the Porsche is really strong. And now we can start seeing if we can catch up to Elgato, who obviously got the undercut on me when I've been in the pits. He's got past us, just like Oscar NJ did. But this is just so insane. This is why I love these new settings. You've got so many different strategies at play. We've got cars ahead of us that will be behind us. We've got cars behind us that could jump us. It's so exciting, and I'm just so happy they've made these changes to GT Sport. This is what I know we've been going on about for quite a while now, about the race distance needs altering. A lot of moaning. People think it's moaning, but I know how good this game could have been, and this is evidence of this now as we come through that really fast right-hand corner, trying to use all the track there. You can see Devil also behind us, pushing as hard as he can. The advantage that Mercedes down the straight is it's a bit faster, especially in the slipstream. Mercedes is really strong in the slipstream. It manages to gain a lot of toe from other cars. So down the straights, he's managing to stay within 1.3 seconds, which has given him a couple of attempts. But then through the corners, the Porsche with the fresher tyres is able to build up a bit of a lead again, as we see going over the line now, and we've got a bit of gap. We're covering that gap to 1.3 seconds. We've got that gap pretty much sorted, so not a massive worry there. I felt like I could defend against Devil if he's on the 1-stop, just like ourselves, and it looks like he is, as we see Elgato not too far up ahead now as we skip ahead now a couple of laps. You see now Elgato is in front of me now. We've managed to catch him up, but you can see I've managed to gap in a lap and a half. I've managed to put a gap up to about 1.6 seconds to Devil. So that is looking like a gap that I'm controlling. I've got the speed to really pull away. I don't want to take too much life out of these tyres. I'm still trying to look after the fuel slightly. Obviously these tyres have got to last me to the end. And now I can see Elgato in front of me, and I need to really push, because when Elgato pits, he's obviously going to come out behind me. So I need to make sure I've got as much gap as possible, because this is going to be an exciting end to this race. You can just see it already building up. You can see the gaps are coming down, and also it looks like Storm is catching up Oscar Eng, who did that undercut. You can see him all over him during that chicane there just in front of us, and we're actually catching up Oscar Eng as well at this point in this race. So 10 laps into this race, 20 odd minutes into this race, and it's still up in the air who is going to take this win. As Elgato does as expected with only 29% fuel. You see there, that is the disadvantage of the Audi. He's gone in the pits, he's going to have to put a bit of fuel in, and surprisingly I did not expect that. We have Devil in the pit on lap 10. He only pitted lap 6, so I believe he's changed his strategy. He's realised that he wasn't going to be able to jump me because I had more pace with the fresher tyres. So he's gone in for a pit stop with Elgato, I think it was. So this is going to be so interesting how that works out, because Devil does not need to put fuel in, and Elgato does need to put fuel in. and the Mercedes is very strong anyway at this track, so I've got to just try and keep this nice and consistent. Now we're back into P3 and we've got some defensive driving, so you can see we've got that gap to SVDR to around 2.3 seconds, 2.2. That seems fairly safe. I don't feel like there's much chance of losing the position to P4 at this point, but it's Devil and Elegna that I'm really worried about. You can see that Devil is up into P7 and Elegna has come out the pits in P6, and now they've got fresh tyres, low fuel, fresh tyres. Them tyres are going to be fast all the way to the end of this race, and my tyres are going to be feeling very old because I'm obviously on the 8-lap stint on this second part of the race. So it's going to be a case of just trying my best to see where we can come, try and limit the mistakes, try and keep it smooth, and see if we can gain any time on the leaders, really, because I am catching P1 at this stage, and obviously Velocity is right behind Eng as well in that Mercedes. So if they battle, I can start gaining. As we see, it looks like Velocity might be able to make a move into that chicane. Is he close enough? It doesn't look like he's able to make a move on this lap, but he's very close there as we go through the chicane ourselves, trying to attack that as much as possible without being too aggressive that the rear slides and takes life out of them rear tyres. But the gap again to SVDR is increasing. We've got it to about 2.4, 2.5 seconds. That is covered, and now we just need to concentrate on keeping it nice and smooth all the way to the end of this race. Such an exciting race. This is why, again, I've said it so many times, but this is why we wanted longer races. We skip through now to the end of lap 13. You can see Velostorm has managed to get himself past. We've still got SVDR behind myself, 2.3, 2.4 seconds. The gap is staying very static. My strategy so far has been really good. I've kept it where on the track. I've not been overdriving the car, but now I can see that NJ seems to be struggling. You can see we've gained over a second and a half on him, because he obviously pitted that lap early. He's going for the really long second stint on a one-stop strategy. He can't pit now. He's clearly gone for the... There's been 4 or 5... I think looking at the strategies in this race in the top 6, there's been 3 or 4 different strategies just from 6 different drivers, and we're all very close on the track coming into the penultimate lap. This is incredible. You can see Elegna there really gaining on me. Look at the difference through the corners, 2.2, and that gap is just going to come down and down and down as we go through the corners. Look at that, 2 tenths in one corner, and then on traction zone he's going to gain more time. Top speed, the Audi is going to be faster. This, I have to say, was real pressure, and this felt really good because, you know, the longer race, this is all coming down to the final laps in a race, and this is what we want. This is what I think viewers want to see. They don't want to see an 8-lap race which is decided by qualifying. They want to see a race that strategy and overtaking decides these positions. As you can see now, the gap to the Mercedes in front of me is now 2.6, 2.7 seconds, and the gap to Elegna is decreasing massively down to 1.4 seconds. That Audi is absolutely flying. This is getting really intense now. I knew at the time I needed to push, I needed to drive the most and get the most out of these worn tyres as we go into the braking zone, down into second gear, trying to clip the apex and getting on the power as early as I dare with these rear tyres, and then suddenly the car just snatched there in the braking, and you can see my face on stream. Didn't really like that corner, lost about 3 or 4 attempts to engine front, and that Audi just gained about 5 tenths of a second through that one corner. The mistake has really give that Audi the run now going into the final corner. How close will he get into the chicane, which he'll be flying through with that extra grip on the tyres. You can see it in the mirror. He's coming up behind. You can see me looking back. I can feel, I know that Audi is going to get past me. I'm going to try and defend it though. We've got 1 lap to go. I'm in a podium position. I've got to try my best to defend, but there is really not much I can do with this lack of grip compared to the Audi's fresh tyres, and also the fact that he's probably put fuel in to push really aggressively as he brakes extremely late on them tyres. He actually brakes a bit too late. I take the inside line, but he pushes his way through on the left hand side. A little bit of contact, but that's fair enough. A little bit of contact is all fair in these races as long as you're not taking someone out as we go into the braking zone and try and hold it. You can see how much I'm struggling now, trying to take the wider line, trying to square the car off, because now we have Devil behind us. Devil with that unusual strategy is flying now in that Mercedes. This really makes it a shame, because if I would have pitted, I would have been out a second ahead of him. Look how close he is to Elegna. This is just crazy. Maybe I should have pitted and just put a tiny bit of fuel in, because I would have been able to do it, and then driven 100% aggressive. We might have even been able to catch up to P2. This is why we love these new races. The strategies, all different strategies coming together at the end. As Devil so close behind me, I'm trying my best to get the power down. You can see the car is, it's not really driving very well, but I'm doing my best to hold on to this P4 in this top split FIA race as Elgato there, you can see, managing to pull away. Now he's got that P3 sorted, but Mercedes is all over the rear. You see I'm going to have to go defensive, covering off the outside line, taking a nice apex there, just trying to hold it on the right hand side here. Now I've got to try and give an angle to myself. He's going to try and go around the outside, but what he's going to do is do the undercut, get a better exit with them fresh tyres. He's got even newer tyres than Elgato, so that Mercedes is absolutely flying at this stage, and you can see the pace of that Mercedes. There's not much I can do. I'm going to try and defend it into the braking zone, but he's just going to be able to brake that a little bit later, and he manages to take that position literally on the second to last corner. I fought to the end. I tried my best. I'm going to come home in P5 in this race, but I don't care. The fact that we've had such a good race with different strategies, different type of driving, this is what we want to see in FIA races. Excitement all the way down to the final lap, and I take a pretty well-earned P5. I think maybe if I would have pitted when Devil pitted, I would have come out obviously ahead of him because I had a 1.5 second gap. I would have then been able to put a bit of fuel in and drive it 100% aggressive, and you never know, P2 might have even been possible. It's crazy. These races are just so much more exciting. I absolutely love them. Thank you, Gran Turismo, for bringing these settings to FIA. This is what we've wanted. This is why we've wanted it. First race in these new settings, and it was a really exciting end to that race. A great job by Velostorm also in the WRX. Not the best car for that track, but an incredible job to take the win in the Subaru. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. Let me know in the comment section what you think about these new settings in FIA, and what did you think about that race? Did you enjoy the multiple strategies on show? I absolutely loved it. Thoroughly enjoyed it all the way to the very end. Pretty much decided on the final lap. There was a podium opportunity, a few errors. That final error on that final lap, where the penultimate lap, where I just kind of didn't get the braking into the apex, ran about 4 attempts, lost about 3 or 4 attempts. Could have been the difference between P4 or 5. I don't think P3 was on. Elgato just had too much pace, but still a great race all the way to the finish. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed, and click that notification button so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks again for watching, everyone.